here's a little short story. I'm not sure that it's I'm not sure it's completely irrelevant, but it's a true story. So I had a client had a partner. They were together for about 4 or 5 days before the partner found out that the new partner had another partner. Complicated
Yeah.
complicated triangle of life. And my only question was, and my understanding of my client was that my client was a good person, but they didn't have the ability to analyze situations and protect themselves. And sometimes we protect, or maybe always, we protect ourselves through information, through getting data and getting information and using that to form an accurate picture of what is happening around about us. And to get that accurate picture of what is happening is really, really, really important before we make any important decisions. And my only question to my client was, what did your friends say? You know, what advice did your friends give you? Were they critical in any way? Did they give you any warnings? Did they tell you to be careful and look out and think first? And she said, no. I said, what, none of them? She said, well, I didn't really talk about it, but that's what friends are for. Friends are for checking all of these things first and getting some accurate feedback, because we can all make mistakes, and it's hard to see things and understand things sometimes. Like if I'm looking out to sea, like right now, and I see something in the distance, I'm like, oh, is that a dolphin maybe? And I'd say to my partner, hey, come and see this. What, is that a dolphin? And you you get it. You get feedback from other people about, the accuracy of your own thoughts about things. And if you're not asking the people around about you, it's because you don't trust them. And if they're not helping you, advising you in the right way, then they're not the right people to have around about. And most people don't select the people around about them carefully enough. They're not careful enough about who they communicate with and what they communicate about. And the failures of the people around you will become your failure. Just as the same way the successes of the people around about you will maybe become your successes. The failures of the people around about you will become your failure. And you need a balanced relationship, which means a win-win relationship. You see, it seems to me that the relationship we're talking about here is that your boss needs you to succeed because he's going to fail. That's not a win-win, right? That's not a win-win scenario. And very often in life we end up with all kinds of relationships in work and outside of work, like that, where people are very, very dependent upon other people very, very connected, very, very attached to other people and their success. So if, I think that maybe I'm using this too much as an example, but I think that if you go on holiday and you don't leave people to do their own thing, it's a bit like going away and sort of calling your partner to check on them or something like that. There's, yes, in business things happen and information needs to be transferred between people, but the inability of people to successfully plan breaks is another example of failure. Getting away from work, yes, you still have to check a few things here and there, of course, but getting away from work really should be getting away from work for people, however hard and difficult that might be. So what was the key point? I think the key point that came out of my little rant about narcissistic people is distance and time. To keep your distance and limit the time, because good things are, and perhaps this means being very strict about it. You know, somebody calls you and they're like, "Oh, do you have time?" And you're like, "Well, I'm really busy right now. I'll give you 2 minutes," and I mean 2 minutes. And if we need more, I'll call you back later, or call me back later, or whatever. But I give you 2 minutes right now to get things done. And really, really try to limit the time in that zone that's that's negative or uncomfortable, and maybe look to. But it's also hard because narcissists are not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. They know how far they can go. They know how far they can push people. They're not, but at the same time, they're not really sensitive to other people's positions. So, you know, a lot of super intelligent people are narcissists, the same way that a lot of super intelligent people kill themselves. A lot of high IQ people kill themselves because they get lonely because there's nobody to communicate with about the things that they want to communicate with. So there are. It's.
They know what they are doing.
They know exactly what they're doing. Absolutely, exactly, and irrelevant and silly point, but when I lived in London many years ago, I used to go to these rock and metal concerts, and these were small local bands. When I say small local bands, it'd be like about 15, 20 people at the concert, and it would be in some dark club where you would be scared to go to the toilet because you'd probably catch some disease if you go there. Just really clean, really unclean and really dirty places. And there was a band I followed, and they had a song called "Don't Be a Victim." Don't be a victim. And I liked it at the time. I didn't think much about it, but then I thought years later, sort of came back to me this don't be a victim, which is, I don't think this applies to you because I think you understand the situation, but a lot of people are victimized. They allow other people to take advantage of them. They allow other people to use them, and it doesn't ever lead anywhere good. As you mentioned already, you know, give somebody a finger and they take an arm, right? You can't give narcissists anything extra to play with. It doesn't lead anywhere good. And then as you get higher up the hierarchy in companies, it leads to a question. Intelligent people pretty much understand narcissism, right? They understand that this narcissistic personality disorder exists and people have it and are have negative results because of it. So what kind of person is going to employ a person that has some narcissistic habits? Because big companies shouldn't be employing people without personality tests. It's about quality of leadership, because I think, I don't know the statistics. I imagine in my head like 9 out of 10 people will only employ people with similar characteristics. Because why would you employ someone you don't like? Yeah, I think interviews are very often fake and false scenarios. Like I do know some companies that put people through 5, 6, 7, 8 interviews before people get the job. And they give people interviews in different settings, and they see how they work in different teams, and they take them to different places, and they really, they really take time to study the characteristics of the person. So we need people with different characteristics to do certain things. But I think it's kind of obvious that we're only going to employ people we, to a certain extent, like, or that we understand. Or if it's somebody for a specific task, I can see employing someone for a short period of time to do something if you don't like them and you know that they're going to move away or not be there after a period of time. If it doesn't. If I call some electrician or some plumber to come and fix something in the flat, to be honest, I don't actually care whether or not they're a nice person. Right? If they come and they do the job and they leave, I'm happy. Right? That's, in this area of life, that's professional in my opinion. Maybe they're not a nice person on a daily basis. I don't know, but that doesn't factor into the whole situation, because they come and they go, and I'm not going to see them again. So I think if it's a position in a company and the person's going to be there for 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, however long, you're only going to employ people that you can work with. In my experience with people in companies, which is limited, but I have some experience with that, every problem in the company was the result of a personal problem between people. I recently know somebody who lives just next to me here. His company just collapsed, and it was a personal problem, right? It wasn't a problem with the business plan. It wasn't a problem with the concept or the management or the idea or not having enough clients or customers. It was a personal problem that caused everything to fall apart. And I think that is what causes most companies to break down. Why did Steve Jobs leave Apple originally? It was a personal conflict. It was an ideological conflict. His ideas were different from the ideas of the board of directors. It was an ideology. It was about people. So I think that I think that intelligent people recognize narcissists, and I think that narcissists recognize narcissists.
Mm.
So, and look, intelligent people know what's going on. Like intelligent people can walk into a room and they can go, oh, they understand, okay, this group of people and that group of people, and they're happy and they're sad and they're having fun, and they can see all the stuff that goes on. So I think there's a lot more visible than people understand. You know, I think that you're intelligent, you can see a problem. There's obviously other people. I don't think you can do the kind of work that you're doing without being surrounded by a certain level of intelligence. I know that people will make mistakes from time to time, but in general, more people have to see that there is a problem there, and that I cannot see a situation where intelligent people would employ a narcissist to work in a company. I only think a narcissist would employ a narcissist because there's some mutual benefit there. Look, here's the example. Nice people don't work for the mafia. They don't. You don't find nice people working for the mafia because nice people go, yeah, I don't want to break people's legs and steal their money. Yeah, so I think when there is a problem of wrong person or wrong people in a company, I think it's systemic of a bigger problem that exists. And most companies fail eventually, with the exception of banks, which just collect wealth and grow, basically. Corporations are called corporate because corpus means dead body, because they should be allowed to die, but they're not. They keep going. And so every company that gets bigger and bigger and bigger eventually basically eats itself. It's a snake. It eats its own tail. And that it's very hard to keep the wheels moving and everything going forward in bigger organizations for this reason. Maybe I mentioned this last week, I'm not sure. I was listening to an interview with somebody who used to work for Google, and he was describing Google's search algorithms and how they work. And he was saying that Google is now so big with so much going on that there's no progress with Google. He says there's no progress and no innovation because there can't be, because it's so confusing. And he said that if you study the technology Google used 7-8 years ago and you look at it now, it's exactly the same. There has been no progress. The only way that these companies progress is when they buy smaller companies and use the technology and the innovation from the smaller companies. And it's a problem that all big companies have. I mean, what has Apple done since the first iPhone? What innovation has Apple had since the first iPhone? Like nothing, basically. Nothing. And that was the innovation of Steve Jobs going into Apple and basically turning everything upside down. And he had a lot of different ways of doing that, and a lot of practices and a lot of psychology that he applied there. but since that point in time, very little progress. And that's also what we see with you look at the bigger picture of society in general. You can see it's the same thing. Yeah. What new musical genre have we had in the last 15 years? Like basically nothing. There's very little innovation there. Because the big companies became so big and wanted to control things and so on. And in that kind of situation, things slow down. And part of the reason why it slows down is this narcissistic element of the personalities of certain people who get involved. And this part of the secret to, I think, success, if there is a secret to success, is innovation, of reinventing ourselves, which is something that we have to do personally on a sort of daily basis. Like it doesn't matter how hard you worked yesterday, because it's finished.